Clear skies, everyone. I am Joseph Lakula, webmaster, and today I have privilege to welcome Chris Kardos. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Joseph.
Chris, you are from Cedar Rapids, right?
I'm not a native of Cedar Rapids, but I've lived here in the area since 1983. I was actually born in New York and grew up in Maryland suburbs of Washington, and then went to school in Indiana, then to California for a while, and then finally to Iowa. But I've been
Okay,
here a while.
and now you are in Cedar Rapids. I was going to say that you are in Cedar Rapids in Cedar Amateur Astronomers, right?
That is correct. Yes,
And actually, you are president,
I am indeed.
which
A little
is
bit
surprising
surprising because
because we were talking a few months ago, and you used to be vice president, or
I served 2 terms as vice president, but I've only been with the Cedar Amateur Astronomers since 2023. So I'm pretty new at it, but I jumped in with both feet and was willing to do a lot of the legwork and hard work, and people liked that, and so they elected me.
congratulations. I mean, hey, this is pretty good advancing.
It is, it is. Sometimes I'm a little overwhelmed though.
Well, being president of probably every organization is not easy, because you have a responsibility, and even though, this is probably non-profit organization, right? But still you have responsibilities, and so um, you know, tell me how come that you became interested in astronomy, and how it happened that you are president after what, 3 years of joining club? How it's
Yeah, so
possible?
there's really two questions there. So let me address the first. How did I become interested in astronomy? So as a very young child, um, I was gifted in math and science, and had a tremendous interest in the space program in the '60s and beyond. I was fortunate enough to be chosen for a National Science Foundation program the summer between my junior and senior year of high school. And they sent a group of us, science nerds, if you will, off to the University of Virginia at Charlottesville, where we spent 4 weeks learning computer programming and other skills. But we also got to pull an all-nighter and watch Neil Armstrong walk on the moon. And that was very cool to be doing it with that kind of a group. Um, I also have a pretty lifelong history in photography. I've never been a professional photographer. It's always been for fun. But I shot film, and in fact, I had a little black and white background, darkroom when I was probably less than 12 years old, and I didn't keep up with that very long. But I switched to shooting other kinds of cameras, and uh, have been pretty serious about photography, ever since I was a teenager. So I also was president of the photography club here in town. I've been associated with them since about 2009. And every once in a while, people would bring in astrophotographs, or a speaker would come in and talk about astrophotography. And that really captivated my attention. And in 2017, I bought a new camera, a new DSLR camera, and my wife and I took a trip to Bryce Canyon and several of the other national parks. And I planned for months the Milky Way shot that I was going to take that night. I got out all the tools, photo pills, and other things, and studied what exposures I needed and what kind of lenses I should use and what direction I should be pointing and all that sort of stuff. And I got a pretty spectacular image of the Milky Way over Bryce Canyon, and that really got me more enthused. But up until 2023, I was still working as a full-time consultant, and I just didn't have time to pursue the astronomy club here, the Cedar Amateur Astronomers. Even though I knew they existed, I just didn't have enough time to dedicate to that. But in 2023, I started winding down my consulting practice, and that gave me more time. I joined the club that summer. Um, like I said, I jumped in with both feet, and they ended up electing me vice president in the December annual meeting. I was reelected the following year, and then our president, who was retired just now himself, wanted to step away from those duties so he and his wife could travel more and that sort of thing in his retirement. And I agreed to step up to the presidency. It
Wow.
was a little bit scary because, as you are well aware, we are hosting the NCRL 2026
Well,
convention in May.
this will be one of my next questions. But what I learned, so you used to be president of photography club, right? And so this is the partially answer how you became president because probably you had some skills how to run organization. Are you still president of a photography club or?
No, I stepped down this recent year because I knew that doing both with the convention coming up was just going to be way too much to handle. So
Yeah.
I may go back and take another position with them in a subsequent year. But this year, my attention is focused with the CAA.
Back to so this is you're absolutely right. I mean photography and astrophotography, there is a lot of commonalities. And let me ask you another question. What is, if I may, what is your education? Is it physics related or?
Well, it's actually engineering related. I got BS in engineering and a master's in nuclear engineering uh,
Wow.
from Purdue University. And I spent, probably I graduated with my master's in, well, a long story. I took a little while to finish my thesis, but I actually started working with all of my coursework for my master's complete in December of 74. And I remained in the nuclear industry full time through 1995 and then part time until probably 2005,
Mhm.
um, at which time I sort of transitioned to full time in the IT industry. There was a lot of overlap between my nuclear career and IT all through the time I was in nuclear. Even back when I was in nuclear engineering school, I was heavily involved in computer work, and so it was a natural for me. And I had an
Mhm.
opportunity to sort of make a transition there in the 2000 timeframe, and became more focused on the IT side, but continued to support nuclear for a few more years.
But that nuclear engineering and knowledge of physics, which is behind it. I mean, hey, there is pretty good connection with astronomy, because every single star is actually big nuclear oven, and we
In,
wish
in
we could utilize it and everything. So. Okay,
Indeed, it
so
is.
this
Yep.
explains, your connection with astronomy as well. Um, there are like two big approaches, many members they do like public observing and outreach and this type of stuff. And some folks are like citizen scientists working on some project. So what what is your approach?
So it's a little bit of both. I wouldn't say I've been involved in any formal citizen science projects, but I do, help provide tours of our facilities to school groups and community groups. Help plan the speakers for the different events, um, and then, you know, believe it or not, president of an astronomy club. I do not own a telescope, but I do have a pretty nice ioptron mount, which I bought just a year and a half or two ago. And I hooked that up to one of my nicer cameras with a 600 millimeter zoom lens. And the picture you're seeing behind me is one of the ones I took with that. I'm a
Wow.
long ways away from the top people in the region as far as astrophotography skills, but I'm inching my way further along. I sort of slowed down a little bit because I decided after my first few experiences that I wanted to take the advice of our observatory director and get even more sophisticated. So then I started getting into hooking everything up with Nina and ASTAP and everything else so I could automate everything and plate solve to get the camera pointed in the right direction and use guiding. And I'm still mastering those skills. So it's something that's hard to work on in the winter because it's so
So
cold out.
you have some group of people which are interested in photography, astrophotography, and they
They
what
mentor
they
me.
do. I mean, so you guys you can learn from each other, right?
Absolutely true. We have a number of members who are not only interested in astrophotography, but are very good at it. And
Mhm.
I think you'll see some of their work at the convention in May, um, either as door prizes or auction material or maybe some other forms as well. But yes, we have a meeting every week on Tuesday evenings for
Wow.
whoever wants to show up. It's usually about a 15 or 20 person audience, but usually the top three astrophotographers in our group are usually in that Tuesday meeting along with myself. And
So every single week, this is pretty frequent.
it is. Well, this is the Tuesday meetings are what we call our CAA planning and coordination committee or team. So every week we discuss, who's signed up for a tour, what are the dates, do we have volunteers lined up to support them, what other things are going on. This year we're having to renegotiate and re-sign our 20-year lease agreement with the county for use of our facilities. And we're working through just last year I worked through a complete revision of our bylaws. Spent a lot of time on that myself,
Mhm.
working with attorneys and then passing probably 20 or 30 drafts past the board members and the membership. We finally got that approved late last year. And then I turned attention into getting some things straight with our PayPal account because the person who was in charge of that was no longer with our club, and he had sort of the keys to the service. So I had to figure out how to take that over, and then I'm working on getting point of sale capabilities so we can sell items at the conference and in the back of our observatory when we have public nights and that sort of thing. So I've been a busybody.
Yeah. Well, every single president is busy, but I can imagine. So you have your observatory, right?
We
And
do.
your meetings are at the observatory, correct?
So we have most of our meetings are at the observatory. The Tuesday night meetings that I referred to, those are only on Zoom.
Oh,
And
okay.
and in the winter time, particularly in January and February, we may have our member night. We have a once a month member night where people will come out if the weather is not too bad. But we don't have public events, and we don't give public tours and stuff in January and February just because of the winter weather. So we're all excited now because March is just around the corner, and that's when we resume our in-person activities at the observatory.
Okay. Well, I know that you will be hosting conference. So when is it? Is it mid May, right?
It is in mid-May. It's the dates are May 15th through 17th. That's a Friday through a Sunday, and that is the weekend after Mother's Day. It should be a beautiful time of year to visit Cedar Rapids. Flowers will be blooming and weather should be nice. Of course, we could always get some rain or something like that that could put a damper on things. But for our conference, we are doing something that's I don't think ever been done before. So we're having what we're calling track one, which is the annual NCRAL conference for 2026. And it'll be run pretty much like they have been in the past. We will have a Friday night event at our observatory, and then we will have a whole lineup of very distinguished speakers for Saturday. We'll have a conference banquet on Saturday, and this will be at a local hotel, a very nice hotel. And of course, after dinner, then a keynote speech, and then the NCRAL awards and other ceremonies. And then on Sunday, we have some optional tours lined up for people. And so that's track one. But for the first time ever, we kind of lucked into this. The hotel that we booked the conference rooms with, this is a funny story actually. They booked a large Indian wedding for the same weekend, and they said the rooms that we had planned to give you are right adjacent to the corridor where all these wedding guests are going to be going back and forth all day, and there may even be a groom riding through the corridor on a horse. And they said that's going to be a lot of commotion, and we recommend that we move you upstairs to a different ballroom. But in the process, they said you can keep the other two and use them if you want. So we then had three rooms. And through another series of events, we ended up with a fourth room. We're not paying for any of them, which is great. We have a minimum spend commitment with them, but the rooms are actually coming free. So with all this extra room capacity, we've done a couple things. We've created what we call a track two, which is only on Saturday afternoon for 3 or 4 hours. And it will be geared towards students of all ages, educators, members of the general public, and anybody interested in astronomy. And the prices will be very low. I think we're charging $25 for an individual and $40 for a family. And we also are going to have teachers can bring up to 4 students. So a teacher plus 4 students for $40.
So
And
what I hear is basically it's like almost second conference. Very
it's almost
similar
the second.
topic, but
It's
it's like second short conference track two, only Saturday, but still for people, interested in astronomy. Okay, this is really interesting.
it is, and we have a number of solar system ambassadors that are coming to support that. We also have the director of outreach from the University of Iowa's Physics and Astronomy Department. She is helping coordinate all of that activity. We'll be bringing some Iowa students and some telescopes and things up there. We have a inflatable portable planetarium that we've contracted to bring in, which will be a big hit with most of the kids. We're planning to have some small door prizes and things for them as well, and we're hoping it'll go over well. We are still in the process of trying to get the word out to the community about that. We have a little bit of time, but the clock is ticking. And then finally, there's actually a third event. We applied as a club when we knew we were hosting this conference to the American Astronomical Association, which is the sort of professional equivalent to the Astronomical League. They have a program called the Harlow Shapley Lecture Series. And you have to apply for this and be accepted. But we made an application and we were accepted, and we were matched with a very distinguished researcher from the Laboratory for Atmospheric and
In
well,
Boulder?
in Boulder, Colorado, atmospheric and space physics. And so he will be coming. He will be doing a talk for our track one. But one of the conditions of that agreement with the American Astronomical Society is that he also has to give a free and open to the public lecture while he's here in town. So on Saturday morning, preceding track two, he will be giving a talk at the hotel, and it'll be on a different topic than the one he presents in track one. But we're hoping for a great turnout on that as well. And we're hoping that some of the people who attend that free lecture in the morning, may not know about our track two event in the afternoon. So we hopefully will be able to sell a few tickets for track two right on the spot there once he's done with his talk.
So what I hear, it's so interesting. And so my question is it possible for one single person to experience all those three tracks?
No. Well, qualified no. So if you register and pay your fee for track one, you are allowed to go to track two anytime during the day, anytime during the afternoon that it's going on. You're also allowed to go to the Shapley lecture that's in the morning of Saturday. But if you do either of those things, you will have to take time away from track one. So you'll have to say, okay, I'm going to skip this speaker and I'm going to go down and check this out. But the ticket permits you, or the registration permits you to go wander around. The reverse is not true. That people who sign up for track two are not eligible to come up to track.
Well, okay. So I understand, this decision on those conferences, because you are interested in so many things and you have to choose only one. On the other hand, I think that track one is excellent. And remind me, so you you chose. I think that you are saying like Mission Possible or something like that, and it's related to Apollo era companies. Tell me
So
about that.
there's two ties there, and I'll have to do a little full disclosure at the end here. But the reason we chose that, and we chose that over a year ago as our conference theme, is because our community and our Cedar Amateur Astronomers have long and very strong connections both to Collins Aerospace and to the University of Iowa Physics Department. In fact, one of our members, who's a frequent speaker, is an emeritus professor at the University of Iowa. He actually trained under James Van Allen, one of the last people to graduate under him. And many of the University of Iowa staff have made significant contributions to building payloads for all kinds of space missions, even to this day. So the Tracers mission that went up a few months ago, they built instruments for that. They built instruments for the Parker Solar Probe. They were key in the launching of the Voyager missions back in the 70s. In fact, we recently had a presentation from one of the gentlemen who worked on those, who is a member of our club, talking about that. Um, and then we have the Collins side. So Collins is known more as a radio and communications company, but they have a very intriguing story, and there's actually some films you can. There's a small price to pay to download them from the internet, but they made a number of films. One of them's called Steps to the Moon, and there's several others. But the short story is that the founder of this company, Arthur Collins, um, made a name for himself when he was a teenager because he was able to establish a radio connection to an expedition in Greenland that even the Navy didn't have the technology to communicate with.
Hmm.
So he was communicating with these Greenland researchers over shortwave radios that he designed and built himself. And he would take the messages and he would run down to the telegraph office and telegraph the information to Washington, D.C. for the Navy Department. And
Hmm.
it just goes on from there. But anyway, he had a lifelong commitment to excellence in everything he did. And when it came to the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo space programs, they provided all of the communications, not only for the radio communications, but also the TV communications from the moon. Um, and believe it or not, they did all that with no backup systems on board. There was never a single failure of a Collins system in space. And
Wow.
a remarkable achievement. And NASA was kind of nervous when they started the Mercury program, but they didn't have enough room and weight capacity for backup systems. And but over time, after they saw mission by mission without a failure, their confidence grew. And even when they had the ability to pack some more on, like an Apollo capsule or something, they chose to use it for better purposes. So
Okay. Wow.
anyway, so that's where the Mission Possible came from. It came from all of the space missions that both Collins Aerospace and the University of Iowa have supported all through, from the 70s until today,
And
or the
I
60s.
know that there in conference program there is also option, to visit uh, some of those companies. And again, I have a similar question: is it possible to go to all those companies, or do I have to choose?
So that's another area where, or that is an area where things are a bit up in the air right now. So we don't charge anything for those tours, but when we first went live with our website for registration, um, we saw peaks of interest from the registrants on those two in particular, the Collins Museum tour. And by the way, there's Neil Armstrong signed the book in there, and there's a whole section dedicated to their space stuff. But we we had so much interest initially that the gentleman who is a member of our club, that is a docent for that museum, um, he had agreed to run a tour that morning. But then he came back after seeing some of the initial interest, and he said, I think we may have a problem here because A, it's a Sunday morning, and it's going to be hard for me to find other docents to help because they're, off at church or doing other Sunday activities. And B, we can't accommodate a group of 60 people at once. We would have to break them down, preferably into groups of 10 or 15. So we're currently reevaluating, and instead of having a single time for a single tour, we may have multiple tour times, um, so that we can, break up the group who's interested. And also, even doing that, we may have constraints. So we haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do this yet, but we are going to try and give priority to everybody who's coming from out of town. because those who live here in the area, the Collins Museum is open to the public for tours every Wednesday, and we can also arrange special tours for them, a month later or a few weeks later or something like that. So we want to make sure that we try to get as many of the people who are driving in for the conference from significant distance a chance to take part in that Sunday activities. And for the University of Iowa, we have sort of an unfortunate situation. It may still resolve itself, but the administration of the physics and astronomy department has said no to tours on that day, even though one of our members, who is a researcher and works on instrument packages for some of the spacecraft, even though he's willing to give the tours, the administration is saying we can't do it on that weekend because it's graduation weekend. There will be nobody else in the building, and we just don't feel comfortable,
Okay.
having one person open it up and give tours. So I don't know if that's going to have to be canceled or not, but we will see. The other two tours that we have, one is for to see an astronomical clock tower that is a replica of the one in Prague, which is the oldest one in the world that's still operating. And in fact, the engineers that run the one in Prague designed and operate remotely the one here in Cedar Rapids. The big difference is that the one in Prague, when it goes off every hour, there's some windows that open, and the 12 apostles rotate through the windows. But when we built the tower here in Cedar Rapids, and it's at the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library, the focus was on immigrants. And so the apostles have been replaced by immigrant figurines, and it's also referred to as an immigration tower. But it has all the astronomical features and a sundial that you have with the one in Prague. And so the museum has agreed to provide somebody to come down and give an orientation and talk about the clock. And then every hour it will go off and do its little show.
And
So
this
we
is
don't expect to have capacity limits on that. And then our fourth one is the National Radio Astronomy site, where we have one of the telescopes not far from Cedar Rapids that's part of the Very Long Base Array. And they have agreed to, it's usually unmanned, but they've agreed to bring down one of their technicians and open it up and give a tour to our folks.
also they are part of VLBI, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Wow. I mean, what I hear, there are so many goodies, that we will have hard time to
It,
to
it
to choose.
and to
Well,
your
but is
original
there is
question,
there anything else what you would
well,
like to add about your conference?
let me think about that for a second. But just to get back to your original question, it probably is not possible for everybody to do all three of the tours and all
Okay,
four if we
okay.
manage to get past the University of Iowa problem. But again, um, we will figure out a way for people to uh, indicate their strongest preference, and we will give a nod to those who are from out of town and try and make sure that they get in first. So, anything else about the conference? Well, I thought we had the mayor lined up to greet everybody at the conference. Turns out she has a conflict that weekend, but she has agreed to record a video greeting, which we can play. It kind of makes things easier because if it's video, we can show the video in track 1 and track 2 and at the Shapley lecture, and we don't have to have her there all day to do that. So that may work out for the best that way. What else? So, Friday night, I think I mentioned Friday night we would be having an activity for track 1 out at the observatory. So that will involve a catered banquet meal, more like a barbecue, but it'll be catered. And we have a number of exceptional exhibits. We'll have people that are manning those to explain those to people. We're thinking of having a trivia contest and maybe some other little contests that are kind of fun, don't take a lot of time. And then, weather permitting, we'll open up our telescopes and have viewing until people are just too tired to stay.
And if I remember correctly, you had also some plan to utilize lasers, laser
That's correct.
pointers.
Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. So, one of our more creative members who was helping us, still is helping us, but helped us from the early start of our planning over a year ago, um, had the original idea that we would try to set a Guinness World Record for the number of green lasers pointing at an object in the sky. Well, it turned out that going for a Guinness World Record was difficult for two reasons. Number one, there's already been some people who have done something similar. And number two, there's a fair amount of cost involved in having Guinness come out and certify the event and all that sort of stuff. So what we're planning to do instead is we have another member, our treasurer, Carl Bracken, is pretty good at drone photography. So we're going to have him launch his drone in the darkness, and then we will have as many people with green lasers as possible lined up outside our observatory, probably shooting their lasers at the North Star or something like that. And we will need to coordinate with the FAA, make sure they know we're going to do this. We'll need to make sure there's no planes in the area and that sort of thing. But we should be able to get a pretty neat shot from the sky of all these green lasers converging, from a line of people to a point in the sky. So,
Chris, unfortunately, we are running out of time. Thank you. Thank you for a great interview and see you in Cedar Rapids in mid-May.
well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Joseph.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to do this with you. And yes, I encourage you and everybody who sees this to come to our conference. It should be a wonderful time. And as I said, it's a beautiful time of year to visit Cedar Rapids area.